All righty, team. What is going on? Welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. Today, I have a very special guest, somebody that I've had the pleasure of working with now for, man, I was looking back. I guess it's been August will be like 2 years, right?
It'll be 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
time's flown by a little bit.
Time has flown by. So I'm excited to be able to dive into kind of the last 2 years in our journey of working together, doing one-on-one coaching here. So Joseph, what's up, my man? Joseph Bush, I have him on the podcast here today. Welcome, and thanks for taking the time to do this, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So tell the listeners a little bit more about you. What do you? How old are you? What do you do there for work? Where are you kind of at in life, if you will? Obviously, congratulations on just getting engaged here recently. So.
Thank you. No, I'm 32, live in Richardson, recently engaged, about 10 days now. And I work as a tax accountant at a firm downtown.
That's awesome. Very cool, man. So let's dive in. Let's take it all the way back 2 years ago, or even before then, right? I mean, obviously there's the early professional days, college days, like high school, right? So kind of talk to me a little bit about like your nutrition and fitness, right? Before we even started working together, knowing what you know now, right? Kind of give us like the overall view of what your nutrition and fitness looked like before we started working together.
Well, the nutrition was probably just mostly eating kind of whatever. I tracked a little bit, but sometimes I was probably under eating calories some days and then overeating. And it's probably just this yo-yo effect of eating too much, eating too little. Probably not very many veggies. Protein probably wasn't up where it should have been. And then fitness wise, I was probably going to the gym maybe 2, 3, 4 days a week, but all cardio, barely any strength training at all. So.
Gotcha. So what were you like on the fitness side of it there? Like why, like where did the influence come from as to like why you were only doing cardio then and like not doing strength training?
I'm not sure, but that's just kind of what I've always done. I've been a runner in the past, but now I've retired since I had bad knees. So, but I'd be running half marathons, 5Ks, and I just that's how I get my workout in.
Sure.
Or I'd go to the gym, run on the elliptical a little bit. But that was mainly it. And I guess I just never really had any formal strength training, coaching, or anything like that.
Got it. Okay. Cool. No, it makes sense. I'm always curious, right? I mean, I like when I was in elementary school, I had this PE teacher that made like the A1c sprinters, they called it. And I got an opportunity to like become a part of like a running club, like in elementary school.
Right.
So, I mean, running was like one of the first like sports, I guess, or types of exercise that I did there. But if it wasn't for me like getting into football in 7th grade, I wouldn't have gotten introduced to like strength training, strength conditioning. So
right.
It's just interesting, like, what direction you kind of go in life and how you get influenced from different types of exercise there.
Right. And once you're not in the strength area, it can be intimidating to, get in there if you don't know what you're doing. These guys lifting these big weights and I'm doing, the bar over here or something like that. But
yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, especially if you've been seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding type stuff, it's like that can be, before you even step foot into the gym, if that's like your interpretation of what it's going to be like, I mean, it can be scary before you even go, right?
Right.
And then obviously once you get there, depending upon what type of gym you're at and the environment that you're at, it can definitely be intimidating. And that's, honestly, that's a very interesting point I'd love to kind of chat about a little bit is like, you hear this a lot from women, but this happens just as much with men as well, right? And like, if you haven't been in this environment before, if you haven't been comfortable in this environment, if it hasn't been a part of your life, and for a lot of people, like if they haven't had that like strength conditioning aspect from playing sports, if it's the first time stepping foot into the strength part of the gym there when you're however old later in life, it definitely can be intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
And even for some people that were an athlete their whole life, right, or have that background, they get into they start working and like they stop working out, and for some people it's been 10 years or whatever and they haven't been in the gym, so that's just as intimidating there as well, right?
For sure.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you think about the strength training piece and how, you know, obviously I've emphasized it as much as I have with, you know, the need to do it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be the only thing that you do, but it definitely needs to be a part of your training program for so many different reasons there. How did you, like, I mean, other than you working with me and just like starting to do it, and obviously it was a little bit different transition just because of the whole COVID thing, but I mean, did you just tell yourself like, all right, I'm just going to do it? Or like, did you have to overcome some of these, like, you know, struggles that were in your own head? Like, how much of that did you have to deal with there in terms of just getting into the gym and starting strength training?
Right. No, I think it's mostly I just had to do it. And, you know, you watch the videos that you post, and the links that you send of people doing it, you know, correctly. And you just got to start small. You can't, you know, start with the heaviest weight you see. And you just got to know that nobody else in the gym cares what you're doing. I mean, they're not judging you based on, you know, how much you're lifting, or, you know, if you're doing it, nobody's paying attention to you. So that's, you know, more than half the battle.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you hear that all the time, right? Like, I mean, it happens with me, you, and everyone else, right? As to like, we think that people are, I mean, especially with like recording the exercise videos, right? For feedback, right? I mean, even me, when I take those videos, like, yes, it is awkward. Like, just today I was doing it this morning, right? And like, there's this dude that's sitting like right next to me, and I can just tell that he like doesn't want to be in the video at all, right? And so I'm like trying to angle it. Like, there's just always these things that can come up there. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, nobody really cares. Like, everybody has so many things going on in their head while they're working out in the gym that really the last thing that they're thinking about is you, unless you're just doing something that's like, you know, crazy that you see these like videos on YouTube pop up, right? But
Right. They're all worried about themselves.
yeah. So it's a big hurdle for a lot of people, right? So I mean, for some people, they can just tell themselves like, just do it, and then they just start doing it. And for other people, I mean, it's much more of a battle to get in there. So I definitely respect that, and I think that, you know, it's a lot more common than what people think, you know, regardless of the degree of how much you struggle with getting back into the gym or into a certain area of the gym now. So
Right.
and, you know, worst case scenario, I think since COVID, you know, hopefully this kind of proved to people that, look, like, you can 100% absolutely get amazing results through doing a dumbbell strength training program at home. Go buy one set of dumbbells or a few set of dumbbells, and you can get amazing results. So, you know, even if you don't ever want to go step foot in a gym, like, there's still no excuse as to why you can't, you know, have strength training as a part of the program there, right? So anyways, I don't want to get off on strength training too much here as a tangent. Easy to do, right? But man, I want to bring it back. I was kind of looking through, you know, obviously our notes and whatnot here. And so, I mean, initially you came to me, right? You said, I need help kind of building, you know, these healthy habits, right? In a sustainable way with nutrition and fitness and sleep and all these different things. But we also had kind of the medical piece there, right? You were needing to like lower your A1c levels,
Right.
and also improve your LDL cholesterol there, right? So kind of talk to me a little bit about like just all three of those goals, right? And kind of where you're at in the process, you know, throughout this 2 year journey that you've been on here.
Or no, you're right. I mean, the main reason that, you know, we came together is A1c was a little high. Doctor threw out the word diabetes, and I started freaking out. You know, I got to, you know, make these changes, and cholesterol was a little high too. But that was the main focus at first, to, you know, get that down. And I think we did that pretty quickly within 3 to 6 months or so. And I think just with the 800-gram challenge, that was just a total game changer to help fix that. It forced me to eat more fruits and veggies. And then, you know, after we got those numbers in line, I think it just kind of morphed into, you know, getting stronger and, you know, more aesthetic goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that, I mean, the power, if you think about America in general, right? If you think about the majority of people, it's like most people don't eat enough vegetables and fruits in their diet. And most people actually undereat protein, which a lot of people are surprised by. But if we're just talking about the vegetable and fruit thing alone, right? I mean, the 800-gram challenge, or really call it whatever you want. But yes, shout out to my friend EC for making that. But ultimately, it's just starting to eat more vegetables and fruits, however you want to think about it. I mean, for some people, 800-gram challenge could be very intimidating because they're not eating any at all, right? And they need to like slowly work their way up and kind of understand that. I think the way that I kind of go about it now in terms of just like, don't blink, like get color in every meal you eat, if at all possible, right? And once you can do that, then we can start growing it, right? Get a quarter of your plate, a third of your plate, half your plate, whatever. But ultimately, it's just like, let's get you to start eating more vegetables and fruits, right? So, the power of that, right? You're like Socrates or Einstein or whoever it was, like who said, let food be thy medicine, right? And I would argue that statement is emphasized more than ever with the vegetable and fruit intake, because the more vegetables and fruits you eat in your diet, the more your overall quality of your diet is going to improve, right? I mean, let's be real. If you're filling up half your plate with vegetables and fruits at every meal you're eating a lot less crap typically, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge one. I mean, for the listeners here, it's like, look, if you're not getting color, aka vegetables and fruits in at most of the meals that you're eating, then I mean, you got to start there, and then from there you can start thinking about getting enough. So make a list for yourself as to like, I mean, you're a great example of this, right? I mean, you have variety and whatnot sometimes, but you create a lot of like systems in your nutrition, right? You have a lot of like simplicity in your nutrition. And so, make a list of the vegetables you like, make a list of the fruits you like, right? Like, don't make it super crazy complex with trying to find all these recipes. Just make it simple. You got anything to speak on that with, in terms of like just simplifying the process of nutrition and starting to create those systems in your life that allow you to be more consistent?
Yeah. So I just make sure when I go to the store, we've been using Instacart ever since COVID. It makes it easy. You just, select it and it gets delivered to your house. But I've been just ordering, fresh fruits and vegetables on there. And then, a bunch of the frozen vegetables too, which are just so easy to pop into the microwave. You don't have to spend time chopping them up or prepping them or anything like that. But usually it's, 300 or so grams of fruit with breakfast. And then we try to fill up the plate with veggies, the other two meals. But back when we started, I don't know, I was probably blanking a lot of days on fruits and vegetables. I probably barely had any.
Oh yeah, you were. Yeah, your I mean, like looking at the food pictures, I should have sent you some pictures here before we started, but yeah, man. I mean, literally, I could do a side by side with your food pictures back then, and I mean, there were some meals that were good. It wasn't like all of them were, but
right.
the ratio of like that 80-20 lifestyle that we always kind of talk about was almost more like flipped when it came to the nutrition there, right? I mean,
right.
your nutrition, if I did a before and after picture today, 2 years later, I mean, it looks significantly different. And with that said, it's like, you still enjoy life, you still enjoy things you want to enjoy. You made this little like feast Friday or whatever you called it. I thought it was hilarious, right?
Right.
But talk to me a little bit about this, right? Because this is something that a lot of people are seeking, right? People want results, right? But they also want results in a way that's actually sustainable. They want results in a way where they don't have to restrict themselves from the things that they enjoy. And now, look, there is going to be some sacrifice and restriction and things like that. You can't keep doing everything you've been doing, up into this point if you expect to change. But there's also, you can create a balance with this. You know what I mean?
Right. So no, we implemented Feast Friday at some point. It was probably during COVID, because we'd cook most of our meals, except on Friday we'd get something usually delivered or we'd go pick it up. But the three main pillars that I'm following here are, calories, protein, and fruits and veggies. So Feast Friday, I think my main goal would just be to keep the calories in line and not go way over there, and then not worry as much about veggies or protein. But that's part of the 80-20, and I'm allowed to do that, right? In this lifestyle.
And you got to, right? I mean, because it's like,
right.
if I asked you like, hey, I mean, you like Mexican food just like as much as me, right? So it's like, all right, Joseph, what, you can never have another margarita or Mexican food for the rest of your life. Like, that's just not sustainable. you know?
That's not going to work for me.
It's not gonna work. So that was one thing we talked about earlier on too. It was like, what are the, what are kind of like these non-negotiables, if you will, right? That we need to kind of build in to make this sustainable, right? And as
Right.
you saw, there was, like when you're in a dieting phase, like how we did this little summer shred thing, right? Like, and you're eating in a calorie deficit, there's going to be a different level of discipline and sacrifice and all these things, but it's short-lived, right? It's not a forever play. And so
Right.
seeing the difference, like how you just saw with that dieting phase and then what it was like before at more like maintenance calories, right? Much difference in terms of like just the flexibility that you have, right? Much more balance when you're eating at maintenance calories versus eating in a calorie deficit, trying to diet and lose body fat. So
For sure. And as long as you, plan out your meals, you can really do almost anything you want.
absolutely. I mean, that's what tracking does, right? And again, so many people, and maybe you can even reflect on this because I mean, I say it all the time, right? It's not like I love tracking by any means, but so many people say that it doesn't work for them or they've tried it or whatever, or they're just not willing to do it in the first place, right? But I mean,
Right.
you're a tax accountant. It's like you're a numbers guy. It's like if you don't know your numbers, it's really hard to make change, right? And so if you have
Right.
somebody that's trying to lose weight or gain weight or whatever you're trying to do there in terms of manipulating your body composition, it's like you do need to track. You're gonna get much better results. You're gonna build way more awareness and be a lot more consistent if you'll just track. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like you had tried tracking it a couple times before. I'm sure there's maybe some things we weren't doing completely accurate, right, or
Right.
whatever. And if you remember, maybe bring that up. Like, what were some of the, like when you had tracked before we started working together, right? Versus like how you've tracked, on and off here over the last 2 years. Like, what were the biggest difference there?
I think before it was probably just, a lot of guesswork, I didn't have scale. So there's probably, this is 8 ounces of chicken or whatever it is. And probably just like searching for whole meals at once instead of tracking individual items. That was probably part of the difference. But now it's weighing everything and logging everything to make sure it's much more accurate.
Do you think what do you think the discrepancy was in calories potentially, like, not weighing your food and basically like searching like a hamburger rather than like actually breaking down the hamburger into individual items? Like, I mean, calorie wise, what do you think the variance there was in terms of how you're doing it before to when you're doing it accurately?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to know, but it could be 300-400 calories a meal, or 300-400 calories a day. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not including all the sauce or anything like that on a burger, or who knows? You just got to make sure to include everything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's literally so easy to, I mean, if you're not tracking, like it's so easy to think that you're eating less than what you actually are, right? Especially if you're eating out, a lot more, right? And I think that's a big piece too, is like, I mean, you're eating out, like, even when you think about like from a vacation standpoint or a travel standpoint, like being able to think about kind of that iCoach plate, right? Or even just that, getting more vegetables and fruits, getting protein, not blinking on those things. Like you just traveled here recently, right? So maybe talk about that a
Right.
little bit. Like what do vacations look like and traveling look like now versus before? Because that's something that a lot of people struggle with too.
Right. But so before, I mean, I'm sure I ate out literally every meal. But these past few vacations we've taken, we've gone to the grocery store, loaded up on some better things to cook and prepare ourselves, and that way just a lot more of what you're actually eating and what's going into your meal. Not to mention save quite a bit of money too.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah,
save money and you probably feel better, I would argue, right?
you don't feel like garbage all day, right? Right.
Digestion's probably a little bit more intact there. So, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, right? I mean, I think with Airbnbs and things like that these days, I mean, it's really up to you, right? I mean, and there's no judgment. There's not like bad or good or nothing wrong. I mean, there's some vacations that I don't want to cook a damn thing. Like I want to eat out for every single meal, and that's fine. But it's just like, it's always a choice, right? And I think like
Right.
just knowing that, having the awareness around like, hey, I have the confidence and, you know, the education, the tools that I need to be successful, right? Or you know, define success however you may, but to eat healthy and to, you know, keep working towards my goals or whatever, right? Just to not let a vacation be something that makes you feel like you fall off and then you get back home and that carries out, you know, weeks, months, sometimes years in some situations, right?
Right. I mean, at first that was forced by necessity. It was by COVID, and you know, all these restaurants are closed. You know, you have to go to the store, you have to cook. But I think, you know, vacations in the future will continue to cook at least half the meals, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, COVID did. I mean, there's definitely some negative things, obviously, but there's also a lot of positive things if the perspective and, you know, headspace and all of these different things were in line to, you know, for you to be able to do that. But
Right.
hey, so this is one thing I'm curious about. So obviously, you know, when we first started working together, we were talking through, you know, obviously we had kind of this thyroid piece, right? And we had talked a little bit about like how the dairy, the alcohol had, you know, or it seemed to essentially kind of like increase acne. Where are you at now? Like, 2 years later, like just with the acne piece, like and just thyroid health wise, where are you kind of at there?
Oh, I think my thyroid's pretty steady, and then the acne's, you know, almost gone. They're pretty much completely. Um, so I think that the dairy and the alcohol, you know, cutting that down has definitely improved that.
Wow. And I think just overall, your nutrition and fitness overall, I mean, that's probably played a huge role in it, right? Because I mean, just the way that
Sure.
you're, I mean, dairy or alcohol or not, right? But just the way that your overall nutrition is, you know, it's there's no doubt that it's definitely made an improvement there. So that's awesome, man. I mean, it just goes to show, right? I mean, this stuff didn't happen overnight. You know, it doesn't happen in 30 days. You know, you're not going to get a 21-day challenge fix or whatever out there, right? I mean, this stuff
Right.
takes like you have to be very, very intentional about wanting to develop this skill set and be very intentional in wanting to like live a healthy lifestyle, right? I mean, it goes back to the choice thing, right? I mean,
Right.
it's a choice. You had a little bit of a scare there, if you will, right, at an earlier age, right, that brought awareness to you, right? I mean, there's plenty of clients that I've worked with that have literally not gone to the doctor in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, because they're literally scared, right, as to what the feedback, you know, the bad news is going to be there. So yeah, I mean, I think you got some early awareness there, right? And that awareness prompted you to make some change, right? And then now you've really been able to like go all in on this process of, you know, really living a healthy lifestyle the majority of the time, which is kind of the goal for most people, right? And hopefully you don't feel like you're doing it in a way that's not sustainable, right? Hopefully you feel like you can actually do this for the rest of your life, right? I mean, that's kind of the goal there. So it's just cool to be able to see, man, the evolution. It's definitely an evolution. I mean, I know it's obviously hard to think back to you yourself 2 years ago, right? Like from the outside, I've been able to kind of like see it, but I mean, really, you're just getting started if you think about it, right? Because it's like if you can still be doing strength training, you know, working out, being active in your 70s, 80s, whatever, like, I mean, literally, you're just getting started, you know. So
Right, for sure. We saw an old man hiking in Estes Park, you know, last week, and I told the guy, you know, I hope when I'm your age, I'm out here hiking along, even if it's at whatever pace he was going.
yeah,
I still hope I can just do that.
I mean, dude, part of feeling like you're alive, in my opinion, is to be able to live the life that you want to live, you know, to be able to do the things that you want to do. And I mean, I think there's a quote, one of my buddies posted recently. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of like, there's nowhere else on earth where, you know, all of these parts of like spirituality and the earth and challenge and life and all these things can come together, like when you're in the mountains, when you're hiking, you know, when you just feel so small, right? I mean, you're looking up at these massive mountains. It's the same thing when I go snowboarding, right? It's like it just makes you feel like little, makes you feel small in this big universe of all of these people and things that are surrounding. So yeah, it's definitely something I want to do more of for sure. I want to get into hiking more and just doing all the active things, just being an adventure of life, right?
Right. It's good for you.
Yeah, I mean, you feel a lot. I mean, if I took a vacation where I went hiking for a week versus a vacation where I go drink and eat like crap in Mexico all week, like which one am I going to feel better coming back from? You know?
Hopefully the hiking one, but
Oh yeah, 100% the hiking one. If you've ever experienced both, you'll know the difference there. Well, cool, man. So kind of wrapping this up, like what are some of your biggest takeaways so far over the last 2 years? Like if you could sit here and sum up the last 2 years for you and be able to like wrap it up in a bow and give this to somebody that's listening to this, like what are the lifestyle habits? What are the things that actually matter? You hear so much stuff out here it's 2021, right? On Google, social media, the internet, whatever. I mean, what actually matters for you specifically in your life when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle?
I mean, I think it's that you have options. It's the 80-20 lifestyle. Because I went from 80% Raising Cane's and Whataburger to about 80-20, healthy, and then have some cheat meals. So I think that's just the biggest takeaway. It doesn't have to be so strict and stringent, but you can get off your strict diet and do those things that you still want to eat. You can have a milkshake if you want, or you can go to Raising Cane's if you want every once in a while, but just not 80% of the time. You just make it 20% of the time.
That's right. It's all about finding that balance, right? Which balance is like
Right.
this word everybody like throws out there, right? I mean, it's much harder to actually achieve balance. It's much easier to say it. It's much harder to actually achieve it there. But one thing I actually do want to highlight too is like, what do you when it comes to the tracking piece? Obviously, we talked about like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or whatever, any of these apps out here tracking calories or tracking macros. But like, what about the habit tracker piece? Like, what did that? We always talk about kind of that 10,000 foot view. I mean, you have a 10,000 foot view over essentially the last 2 years of your habits, right?
Right.
So what has that habit tracker done for you over the last 2 years?
I mean, there's just something about actually, entering your calories for the week and seeing them there visually, and seeing that you hit all your goals, and then it just makes you want to, continue to hit them, because you'd enter your calories, your protein, your sleep habits. That's never been a really big deal for me, but all those other things, and we added alcohol on mine because I was during the pandemic. I was probably drinking 5-6 days a week, and so we decided to try to limit that to maybe like 2. But just seeing those check boxes on that tracker, unchecked for that purpose, it just helps to see it visually for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because imagine, right? I always say this. It's like, imagine if I got on we did weekly coaching calls, for the majority of this time, right? So imagine if we get on the coaching call each week, right? And we're not using any of these trackers, right? And I'm like, hey, Joseph, how did the last week go, right? Like, for one, you're not going to be able to remember everything. And for two, most of the time, most human beings like to tell ourselves stories that, aren't 100% true, right? We like to rationalize. We like to make things sound, better than they actually are sometimes there. So, or on the flip side of it, sometimes we beat ourselves up too much, right? And I think that's another thing that the habit tracker is cool in terms of perspective, because we got these people out here that are like perfectionists and they beat themselves up about like the littlest things. And I'm like, look, you got to have perspective in that, like I don't want you to be perfect. Like every single person that starts off and they're perfect in the very beginning, like they're doing everything perfect the first week, the first few weeks. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like stop. Like we've got to find like more of a balance here, right? Like I need you to go and enjoy whatever you need to enjoy. So
That's not sustainable.
it's not sustainable.
No.
Yeah. So anyways, well, cool, man. So last thing I want to ask you, I always ask every client this, everybody that kind of goes through iCoach University and graduates this program, what are like, for so many people, right? Whether it's a legitimate or non-legitimate excuse or reason, right? They talk about how doing one-on-one coaching is just too expensive, right? And you can look at all these different money breakdowns of people that, how much I'm spending on iPhones and going out to eat and alcohol or whatever else, right? And so really it's like we prioritize what is important to us, right? But talk to me a little bit. I mean, we've been working together for 2 years now. I mean, obviously you've invested a lot into coaching, a lot into your health, a lot into this journey. I mean, why is it important to you? Like, why, like for somebody that would ask you, like, why would you spend that much money on coaching or whatever? Like, what's kind of your answer to them?
Well, I mean, I think it's too expensive not to do it, because your health is so important. You get one shot at that, and just to develop healthy habits and a lifestyle for the rest of your life, for such a short-term investment. I mean, 3 years maybe, and some people maybe more, some people less, but I think it's just worth it to invest the time in yourself to develop those habits that you can take with you, forever.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And if you were to do, for example, like if you think back when you first started, if you were to do, hey, here's a template, hey, here's a meal plan, hey, here's a workout program, right? Like, do you think that would have worked for you in the beginning there? Like, I think now you definitely could do those types of things and be perfectly fine, obviously, right? But like in the beginning, like how important is like the one-on-one versus some of these other things that aren't individualized to you?
I think it's important because I think if I had only a template and filled that out, I think one, I'd have questions, and then it's just the accountability piece. It's somebody there to help guide you, and if you mess up one week, to help you continue on and encourage you, and not beat you down, or if you're doing well, to encourage you to continue. So I think the one-on-one piece is still very important than just a blank template, because you just have somebody there to guide you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, obviously I couldn't agree more, but I think you hit it right there on the head with that accountability piece, right? I mean, accountability is like, I could be the leading expert in the world of nutrition, right? You could work with the smartest people, like, but at the end of the day, it's like they could create like the perfect plan for you. Like, here you go, right? But like without that accountability piece, unless you're able to hold yourself accountable, which for so many people, that's the biggest challenge, right? Like you're not going to be successful without or the likelihood goes down significantly, right? If you don't have that accountability. So
there's too many outside pressures to pull you in these different directions and help you fail 100%. Without the accountability piece.
Yeah, 100%. And then you have, I mean, there's different versions of it too, right? I mean, for you, like there's a monthly financial component. There's we're getting on a coaching call every single week, right? And like there's that piece, there's the tracking piece, right? So like essentially what we do is we try to put accountability into your life, right? Slowly but surely. And essentially, like for some people they need a little bit, for some people they need a lot, right? But it's just meeting you where you are and just making sure you have the accountability that you need to create the awareness that you need to make the choice as to whether or not you want to make these changes. I mean, I can't make them for you, right? I mean, I can't hold your hand every day, right? I mean, even with a weekly accountability, even with weekly coaching call like that, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of time, even between a week, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. There's a lot of choices that have to be made, right?
Right. Especially on the weekends.
Especially on the weekends. Yeah, 100%. So love it, man. Well, any final words or words of advice? Or, I mean, look, I mean, again, it's like, I think this is somebody, for the listeners here, this is somebody that, has gone through this journey over the last 2 years and has like another person that graduates iCoach University, right? And so it's like, I think that anybody that can sit there and focus on something for that long of a period of time, right, in order to develop the skill set, right? Because I'm more confident in 2021 that anybody that wants to develop a skill set, whether it's nutrition and training or something else, they can do it because the resources are out there for sure. It's just filtering through the BS because it's information overload, and also being held accountable to actually follow through with the things that you say that you're going to do.
Right.
So yeah, man,
Go ahead.
just any final thoughts that you have, final words of wisdom here from an iCoach graduate, anything at all that you want to kind of like leave things off with here?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have anything incredibly wise, but just to use the tools that you give us, whether it's the habit tracker, the workout programs, just you being there for questions, MyFitnessPal, and if you break nutrition down and just to a couple components, calories and protein, and then 800-gram challenge, it makes it not nearly as difficult or intimidating as it sounds. So.
Absolutely. Got to simplify it. You got to figure out, I mean, and for some people, it's like tracking their calories is something that can help them. For other people, like using MyFitnessPal tracking is not something that is a tool that works for them, and so again, there's so many different ways to, live a healthy lifestyle and to figure out how to do that. It's just, you got to meet yourself where you are. You got to check your ego when it comes to things like going to the gym and working out. You've got to be open to change, and you've got to be, transparent and vulnerable, and, like all of these different things, right? Because it's at the end of the day, when you got somebody that's like, not judging you, and they're not judging you, but they're assessing your life on a week-to-week basis, right? And
right,
like obviously you like it all kind of depends on the coach and how they deliver things, but like you are being coached, right? And so it's kind of like you do have to be open to change, right? I mean, it's very easy to be like, oh well, who's this person? Who's this person to tell me this or whatever? Or is this going to work? Constantly questioning yourself. So yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the last piece I've just finished off here with, man, is like, how do you actually trust the process, right? How do you start working with somebody and actually trust the process enough to do the things that person is telling you to do?
Well, I think when that person does those things themselves and you can see their results, I think that's how you trust it. Because I mean, obviously you're fit and you follow the process, and we can see you posting your own habit tracker in the Facebook group, and your workout videos. So I think that's just how you trust it, because you can see that it works and that the coach is doing it themselves.
Taking it back to old school, right? If you're going to talk about it, you better be about it, right? So
right.
Yeah, it's and in a world again with social media in 2021, it's like there is so much like fake that's out there. So I mean, it's just another encouraging reason as to why I believe that like the one-on-one coaching aspect is, like there will always be, the templates and the meal plans and the courses and all of these things. There will always be that. And for some people, those things work great. But at the end of the day, like if you've been like trying to figure some of this stuff out, and you're feeling like lost, you're feeling like it's not working, you're feeling like you're struggling, you feel like you're spinning the wheels, wasting money, whatever, it's like that's when you really need like the one-on-one more than ever. So
right. And just one more point to add, it helps to surround yourself with other people who are going to be encouraging of your lifestyle and the change. Like the fiance, I mean, she gets up every day, works out with me, she eats healthy with me, and so that's just another piece of accountability that help me stay in line.
Yeah, man, that's a huge piece. And what's interesting is like when we first started working together, when we first started working together, y'all weren't dating, right? Y'all started dating after, I think, right?
2-3 months after, right?
Yeah.
After
So
we started working.
I mean, that's another interesting piece too. Like, I mean, obviously the accountability of having somebody that enjoys and wants to live that lifestyle with you. But even thinking about, I always mention like nutrition and fitness is just the beginning. It's the foundation for like excelling in all these other areas, right? So I mean, I think to myself, like, if you get that nutrition and fitness foundation down, what that does for your, your sport, if you will, in terms of work, with having more energy, being more productive, having more confidence, and just the way you look and carry yourself in the office and things like that. But then also, like, from a relationship standpoint, right? Like, so I don't know, man. I mean, it's just, you never know, right? I mean, there's so many different working parts of it all, but I just think that when you get right with yourself, and when it comes to treating your body well and living a healthy lifestyle, I mean, a lot of other things start to fall into place there as well. So,
well, it sounds like iCoach is getting into the matchmaking game now too.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I tell everybody, I'm like, I got lucky. I know nothing about matchmaking or dating. I got lucky when I was in basically high school. So God forbid, man, I can't even imagine being in the dating space these days. I've been out of the games for what, 12 years now almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Save that one. We'll save that one for another podcast.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, Joseph, man, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you doing this podcast, man. Hopefully it's been fun for the listeners here. And yeah, I could probably go on all day here and talk about different things, but I think at the end of the day, guys, the big takeaway is just that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Like, you don't have to sit here and be in this negative headspace of like, oh, I'm never going to be healthy. I'm never going to be fit. I don't have time for this or whatever. Like, if you want to make it a priority, it doesn't have to be your whole freaking life, right? But if you want to make it a priority, you absolutely can. You just got to find a coach that's willing to meet you where you are and help to slowly but surely take you to where you want to be. So, Joseph, appreciate you, my man. And yeah, until next time.
Of course. Thanks, Justin.